In chapter 18, we look at process costing. Process costing is used when we make multiple items of the exact same type using process manufacturing. So these items move from one process to another. So when we use process costing, instead of overhead allocation, like is used in job costing, we put all our cost pools together. So we have our direct materials and then conversion costs. Conversion costs are direct labor and overhead combined. So in process costing, instead of overhead calculations, we do equivalent units of production calculations. So when we're looking at equivalent units per production, what we're trying to determine is what was worked on during the month so that we keep our costs and expenses in each month to meet our revenue recognition and matching principle rules that you can remember from Principles of Accounting 1. So we have this information about Neenah Manufacturing. We know that they had 5,000 units work in process on the first day of the month. Additionally, they started and completed 30,000 units during the month, and they had 2,000 units in ending inventory that were 90% complete and 30% complete in conversion. So the first thing that we do when we're looking at equivalent units of production is that we want to look at what do we need to do in this month to finish the beginning inventory. We have 5,000 units in beginning inventory. So for direct materials, they are currently 60% complete. That means to get to 100% complete, we need to do another 40% of work on them in direct materials. So this is to finish these beginning 5,000 items. They're 60% complete. We need to do 40% this month to get them to 100%. So we would take 5,000 times 40%. For the conversion costs, those are 5,000 units and they were 40% complete with respect to conversion requirements. So if they were already 40%, we need to do another 60% to finish them to 100%. So we take those 5,000 beginning units times 60%. Next, we have our started and completed. These are the units we did 100% of the work on in the month. So it tells us that we did that with 30,000 units. And at the end, we have our ending inventory, and we need to know how complete that ending inventory is. So unlike the beginning inventory, when we're doing the ending inventory, we take that times the actual amounts it gives us. So we have 2,000 units in ending inventory that are 90% complete. So we're going to take 2,000 times 90. And for conversion, they are 30% complete. We'll take those 2,000 units times 30%. Once we have calculated our beginning, started and completed, and our ending, we add them all together to get our equivalent units of production for the entire month. That is step one in process costing's four-step process. So the second step is applying costs to equivalent units. So we are told that we have $437,200 in direct materials and $537,600 in conversion costs. We've already calculated our equivalent units of production for direct materials and conversion costs. To get our cost per equivalent unit, we take the entire cost divided by the number of equivalent units. So for direct materials, our cost per unit is $13, and for conversion, our cost per unit is $16. So total of those units we completed, their total cost per unit is $29 per unit. Let's look at another example. So in this example, we do not have any beginning inventory. We just began making office furniture in this month. We have 2 departments, and we're just going to look at one department's information. So we have the cutting department. We had no beginning inventory. We started 15,000 desks, and then at the end of the month, we had 4,000 partially completed. So let's just deal with that first. Let's look at the first part. So we had 0 in process. We started 15,000 into production, which means during the month, we were working on a total of 15,000 units. At the end of the month, 4,000 of those were still partially complete, which means what we completed were 11,000. So 11,000 is our started and completed. Now we're going to look at what our equivalent units are. We had 0 beginning inventory. We just calculated that we had 11,000 started and completed during the month. Now we're going to look at the 4,000 in our ending work in process inventory. So let's read the sentence about those. These units were 100% complete with respect to direct materials, but only 20% complete with respect to conversion. So if they're 100% complete, we would take that 4,000 times 100% for our direct materials. So our direct materials equivalent units are 4,000. For conversion, we are 20% complete. So we take 4,000 times 20%. We add those together, and our equivalent units for direct materials are 15,000, and the equivalent units for conversion are 11,800. The next step is to apply the cost. So we have 600,000 in direct materials and 590,000 in conversion costs. We already calculated our equivalent units in the above step. So now we're going to take the cost divided by our equivalent units. So we have a $40 cost for direct materials and a $50 cost per unit for conversion costs. We add those together and get $90 per unit. We're going to calculate then how much the cost was that was transferred to the finishing department. We transferred 11,000 units to the finishing department. We just calculated that we have a $90 per unit cost. So for this journal entry, we're going to take 11,000 units times $90 per unit. That gives us cost of $990,000 that was transferred to the finishing department. The last thing we're going to look at is what is our total ending work in process inventory. So our ending, just our ending. So here we have the 11,000. We transferred those to the next department. Now we're just looking at the ending numbers. We have 4,000 for direct materials and a cost per unit of $40 per unit. So we're going to take the 4,000 times $40. For conversion costs, we have 800 units and a cost of $50 per unit. If we add those together, that is the current balance of our work in process inventory account for the cutting department.